Podcast Answer Man, episode number 253.
Entertaining, educational, and encouraging content that makes a difference.
This is GSPN.TV.
Join the community.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft, and this is the podcast about podcasting, helping you take your show to the next level. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new podcaster, if you have been podcasting for many years, or you haven't quite yet recorded that first episode. There is something we can all do to take our show to the next level. And sometimes taking that show to the next level is getting about 22 minutes into the recording of your most recent episode, only to determine that, wow, you're going way too long, my friend. You need to shorten it up, and it would be quicker to re-record those first few segments of your show than it would be to edit it down. And my friends, that's what I'm doing exactly here today. In fact, I'm very excited to tell you that I have a 46-minute interview, Where Are They Now interview with Gary Takacs, and it is an amazing interview that I'm not going to do any editing on, and that's why I want to try to fit everything into 16 minutes. So if you don't mind, I am going to breeze through a bunch of announcements here really fast and let you know a couple things that are going on. First and foremost, I was very honored, extremely honored to be a guest on Andrew Warner's Mixergy podcast. Now, if you guys don't, well, chances are a majority of you listening to Podcast Answer Man know all about Mixergy.com, Mixergy.com, Andrew Warner. This guy, I thought I was picky about who I choose to interview on my show. I mean, Andrew is very selective, and rightfully so. I'm the same way. I'm very protective of my brand and the messages that are related to the audience. I want to make sure that it's a perfect fit for everyone involved. And to think that Andrew saw me as a fit for his audience was an honoring experience for sure. And I just want to say that my interview with Andrew on Mixergy is now online. In fact, you can watch that interview if you go to podcastanswerman.com/Mixergy, Mixergy. podcastanswerman.com/Mixergy. You can watch it as it's embedded on my site, and you'll hardly ever hear me ask you not to leave a comment on my site. In fact, if you want to, you can. But there's a link right above the video or right below the video, I can't remember. But it's right there where you can actually click over to his site where his post is of the video and leave a comment for Andrew if you'd like to. But again, it's podcastanswerman.com/Mixergy. Andrew Warner, thank you so much for the amazing opportunity to be out there. In fact, if you guys have not heard about Andrew Warner, to give you an idea of just how big of a deal this was for me personally, go to Mixergy.com, look at the header, and look at some of the people that he interviews. And that is the bar that he has set for his brand. And again, it was just an honor. Thank you very much. Real quickly, also, I want to give a random plug of the week. This week's random plug goes out to another podcast mastermind member who is doing something amazing. Jen Swanson is the communication diva. Check her out over there at communicationdiva.com. She is devoted to, I'll tell you what, she's got a great mission and purpose in helping people succeed through communication. And you can read all about it. You can hear all about it now with her new podcast, communicationdiva.com. Go check it out. If you do me a favor, tell Jen that you heard about her from the Podcast Answer Man. One little note on the aside there. Just over a year ago, Jen didn't even know what a blog was. I'm not saying she didn't know what a podcast. I'm saying she didn't even know what a blog was. And today, she not only has a blog, but she also has a podcast. Also, just recently did her very first Skype interview. And I couldn't be more thrilled for her. Go check it out, communicationdiva.com. Now, my friends, we're going to turn over to my good friend Dan Matson to see what he's got going over there with his wooden boats.
Hi, Cliff. Dan Matson here. HookedOnWoodenBoats.com. Hope you're doing well, Cliff. Haven't talked to you for a while, but congrats on your mastermind group. getting that off the ground. Let's see, I've got a question about affiliate marketing, Cliff. I've kind of wanted to start putting some affiliate marketing stuff on my website. And what I'm finding in the wooden boat community is there's kind of this unspoken culture that kind of says, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. So in other words, when I've asked some of the folks that sell like wooden boat kits or supplies, if they have an affiliate program, it's kind of like, well, no, you link to us, we'll link to you, and everything will be good. So wonder if you have any ideas, Cliff, of what I can do. Maybe I'm missing something, but I've gone to 3 or 4 suppliers of big suppliers of wooden boat parts and kits and things, and that's kind of what I've been hearing. So anyway, thanks for your help, Cliff. God bless. And Dan at Hooked on Wooden Boats, over and out.
All right, Dan. The good news here for everybody involved is this is my second time that I get to answer this question, and so much more succinctly this time. I have some great thoughts that I want to share with you. Number one, first and foremost, Dan, you're still at this early stage of building your audience. Now, I haven't got a recent update of what your numbers are these days, but I just suspect that still today you're just at the early stages of building a community around your show. So when you tell me that you've gone to 3 or 4 and you said big suppliers of these wooden boat parts or kits or whatever the case may be, first and foremost, this is a traditional non-online, non-internet savvy kind of market for the most part. Now, the thing is, the fact that you're saying they're big suppliers, chances are they do have an internet presence and stuff like that, but they may not yet perceive the value of the social web or even have very much understanding about wooden boats. So it's going to be difficult at first to get these big suppliers to take you seriously. Honestly, it really is. And that shouldn't knock your confidence level down or anything like that in what you're doing and what value you have, because your value is high for whatever audience you do have. But it's going to be hard to convince somebody of that right out of the gate with just a cold call here or there. So my recommendation is that you play with the big boys or the big suppliers, if you will, in their ball game for a while. Let's get your foot in the door, and let's think about something as small as you link to us and we'll link to you. Now, I want to ask you, do you see any drawback in a link to your site from a big supplier in wooden boats? And I personally can't think of any, unless that is in some sort of conflict that you have with an advertisement of somebody else who's paying for a link to your site, whereas you're giving it to free, or they're paying links to their site and stuff like that. Basically, no competition here. But seeing as how you don't currently have a sponsor or an advertiser or affiliate programs that would be in jeopardy as a result of you sharing some links back and forth, you have only to gain, in my mind, about sharing a link back and forth. And it's not just about, obviously there's the gain that in Google, you're going to raise higher up in the ranks when people search for wooden boats, because you're going to be linked to from the big suppliers. So if you can actually get the big suppliers of wooden boats, kits, and parts to actually link to your site, this is huge, my friend. That's a win. That's a milestone to get those big guys to link to you, and sharing a link back to them, that should be a no-brainer, as long as it doesn't like I said, conflict with those agreements that you have with anybody else, which you don't have yet. So by all means do that. And here's the thing, this is where the other part comes in. I would actually link to them, and I would use a plugin called Pretty Links. You can actually get Pretty Link Lite, and it's still the version that I use. It's free. You can get it in the WordPress plugin directory. And basically what you'll want to do is you go in and you set it up to where people go into, let's just say, hookedonwoodenboats.com/company A, and that's the link that you set up. And then what you do is you make sure Pretty Links would send that click right on through to company A. And what I would do is I would prepare a quarterly update and also having analytics, Google Analytics or something like that running on your site. And about once every 3 months, I would actually have that contact person who's provided a link to my site from their site and vice versa. That person that I was working with, I would reach out to them 3 months later and say, hey, I just wanted to give you an update and say, man, I can't thank you enough. I was just looking at my site analytics and I see that out of the X number of visitors who have been to my site, I see that, 40 some odd people, 40 people click through and have been exposed to my brand as a result of the exposure you've given me. Thank you so much for that. Also, I have a great system for tracking my links that I've provided to your site, and I see that we've sent X number of people to yours. If you can ever think of any way that I can help drive even further traffic to you, I would love to discuss options that are available. And just continually keep that relationship open. And here's the situation. One of these days, those big suppliers, they're going to hear about this thing called the social web and the value of online advertising and relationship permission-based marketing and marketing to people who have niche audiences. And my friends, Dan, if you can get in there and have those relationships, you'll be one of the first people turn to. And here's the other thing that I wanted to say is you're talking about the big suppliers and that you want to 3 or 4, and this is the answer that you've got. Well, I don't know how many suppliers there are in your industry for wooden boats, but I would assume that there's more than 3 or 4. And I would assume also that there are not only just big suppliers, but there's probably some medium-sized suppliers. And I would certainly reach out to as many of those people as you can. Again, don't get hurt if all you can get is you link to us, we'll link to you. Build those relationships. Take anything you can get to get your foot in the door and continue to grow and take things to the next level. You got to start somewhere. The next thing that I wanted to say is the small suppliers. And I'm talking about the mom or pops. I'm talking about the people who are making stuff for wooden boats out of their garage. And you know what? They've got an amazing product. And they exist. I know they exist. I don't know specifically what they are, but I have to know that they exist. You got somebody who's probably making special wood glue for wood boats out of their garage that just rivals anything that anybody else has out there. And the thing is they have a good profit margin probably when they sell this product, and they do really well, but chances are they just aren't the greatest at marketing things. Maybe they don't even have a good website. Chances are you could reach out to those people and come up with some kind of great affiliate, offline affiliate relationship with them. And even with me personally, I'm very technical and I still don't have an automated affiliate system yet. I have a few hand-selected affiliate relationships that I've offered to a couple of people that actually love my products beyond what you can imagine. And it's only a few products that I offer the affiliate relationship on, not everything that I do. But I track it by, it's an honor system. It really is. People tell me, I ask people, how did you hear about me? And if somebody says, I heard about you through this, or if I have a shopping cart set up and they use a promo code that I gave out personally to somebody, then I pay them a commission or on that. And so you may want to reach out to some of the smaller people as well. And then, Dan, I'm going to tell you right now, I just did something. I personally, Cliff Ravenscraft, am the proud owner of Wooden Boat. Is it woodenboatsweekend.com or it's woodenboatweekend.com, I believe. Let me just check that and make sure. Hold on one second. Woodenboatweekend.com. And the reason why I purchased this is not because I want to be a cyber squatter. But here's what I'm about ready to tell you, Dan. I've mentioned this to you at least once before, and I noticed still today, woodenboatweekend.com was still available. I own it now. I'm willing to sell this to you at any point in the future for what I paid for it. I'm not going to charge you the $1,500 that I had to pay for podcastmastermind.com because somebody else heard I was creating a podcast mastermind and hid behind some third party, let me sell you cyber squatted domain services. Thank you very much, you Mr. Anonymous person. I'm glad that you got my $1,500 and I got my domain. I'm not bitter or anything, but let me just say, here's the situation. Wooden Boat Weekend. this workshop. You find somebody who's got these. I've seen the pictures on your site. You've got people you've interviewed that have the most amazing workshops I've ever seen in my life. It's like, wow, I would love to just stand in that room and touch the wood that's been planed with those tools and have a hands-on demonstration of how that works. And I could care less about wooden boats, but I would love to take my son there. And just for like $800 for a wooden boat weekend, a Saturday, all-day Saturday event or all-day Saturday, half-day Sunday event, you charge $800. You get $400 profit for you, $400 profit for the other person who actually owns this place. You're doing all the marketing. He's doing all the teaching and the using of his space. You limit it to 10 people per weekend. That's $4,000 for you, $4,000 for your friend. All right? So there you go. And then I just did the math. If you did that once a month, that's $48,000 per year. $48,000 per year. That's not bad income, my friend, for somebody who's just started out in podcasting. Now, again, these are the kind of creative ways that you have to think about doing things with a podcast. It's not just, go out and build something and it just comes to you and people all of a sudden take notice. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of creativity. And I do recommend that you consider moving forward with some creative ways of building those relationships, but also finding other ways to do this. And still, if I'm not mistaken, I think you're still within the first year of Hooked on Wooden Boats. And by golly, continue to do what you can to build those relationships and look out for ways that you can do what we call this wooden boat weekend deal, or this idea that I have. It'd be a joint venture. You're joining together with something somebody else is doing, and the two of you join together and you both profit from it. And it's a great way. And the cool thing is he will actually know people who he can invite that aren't in your podcast audience. You will know people in your podcast audience, hopefully, because you've been building those relationships with those people, and slowly you build it and market it, and some exciting things can happen. Anyway, let's see here. Moving on to our interview. That's what we're going to do. I was going to bring you more, but I realized I want to keep this show just about an hour, and I figure we're going to have to do that. So I'll tell you what, this interview does not need a lot of introduction, so we're just going to get right into it, and I hope that you enjoy. Okay, everybody, I have on the line with me right now Gary Takacs from the Thriving Dentist podcast. Gary, I am so happy to have you on the show, my friend.
Well, Cliff, it's mutual. I'm excited to be here. I've been really looking forward to this interview.
Now, I am interested in finding out how you got introduced into the world of podcasting, because before we hit record, you were telling me that just over a year ago, you had never even heard of this platform.
Cliff, I'm not embarrassed to tell you and your listeners that a year ago, I didn't even know what a podcast was. If you can imagine that.
So how did you find out?
Well, it's actually a very interesting story. I read a wonderful book from a mentor of yours and mine, Mitch Joel, wrote a book called 6 Pixels of Separation. And as I was reading his book, he talked about how you can really use new media to influence people. And it was so interesting to me that I literally just jumped in with both feet. And it was his book, it was Mitch Joel's book, 6 Pixels of Separation, that started me on my quest to learn more about how to use different media. And podcasting was one of the forms of media that Mitch Joel is very fond of. And that was where I first heard about it, right about a year ago right now.
So you heard about podcasting. What was the first podcast that you remember subscribing to and checking out?
Oh, you'll love this. Another one of my mentors is Seth Godin. And so when I first heard about podcasts, I went to iTunes and I typed in Seth Godin, and you would not believe what podcast came up.
Let's see here. I would imagine that the Linchpin podcast from Andy Traub, perhaps?
That's exactly what came up. So the unofficial Linchpin Podcast with Andy Traub came up. And that was the very first podcast that I subscribed to on iTunes, was the unofficial Linchpin Podcast by Andy Traub. And that's how I met you. So if I may continue the story, so I was listening to the Linchpin, the unofficial Linchpin Podcast by Andy Traub, and I really liked Andy's approach, and I liked his philosophy about business. And the next one that I subscribed to was your and Andy's podcast together, and that led me to podcast Answer Man.
Excellent. And that's one of the things I love about this. Your story is, a lot of people talk about how podcasting is just too difficult, and podcasting isn't like what it used to be. It doesn't have that same upward swing of new audience members. And there have even been people in the past, believe it or not, who have said podcasting is dead. And I just don't understand where these people are coming from, because, Gary, your story is not uncommon. I know thousands of people, personally, who just got introduced to podcasting in 2011 and now in 2012. And the reason I know that is because I've introduced thousands of people to their very first podcast with the Hunger Games fan podcast. So you read a book. You said, wow, this new media, there's this thing called podcasting. This guy's talking about it. I go to iTunes. I search for Seth Godin. And you find Andy Traub, and of course that leads you to Business Tech Weekly. He and I did that, and then you started listening to Podcast Answer Man. And within a few short months, I think you signed up for Podcasting A to Z, didn't you?
Correct, Cliff. It was your July Podcasting A to Z course, because as soon as I discovered Podcast Answer Man, and Cliff, I want to take a minute and just thank you for just the inspiration that you've been to me, the inspiration and guidance that you've been to me, because when I first started to learn about podcasting, it was intimidating to me because I didn't know anything about it. It was uncharted territory for me. And we're starting to do your Podcasting A to Z courses, and my daughter and I, Lexi and I, enrolled in your July Podcasting A to Z course. And it was fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous because you demystified the art and science of podcasting, and you made it accessible. And it was at that moment that I decided that I need to do a podcast for myself.
Yes. So before we start talking about your podcast and when you got launched in this journey, I want to talk a little bit more about you, Gary, professionally prior to podcasting. Tell us who you are and what you do for a living and what you've been doing for a living.
Well, thanks, Cliff. It's been about 30 years for me on my professional career, and my expertise is the business side of dentistry. And how's that for a niche, Cliff?
Yeah, you want to help dentists learn how to be more effective at running their business or their practice, if you will.
That's right. I'm not a dentist. I never have been. My entire professional background is the business side of dentistry.
Whoa,
and for
wait a second. I didn't even know this. So wait, you mean to tell me that your professional career is helping dentists run more effective business, but you're not even a dentist yourself?
Not a dentist myself.
Are you telling me that it's possible to serve a niche where you are not already an expert yourself in that niche?
I'm living, breathing proof of that, Cliff.
So how did this start? I mean, you're into business. How did you get into the dental niche?
Well, still while I was in college, I attended the university. I graduated from the University of Oregon. That makes me a fighting duck, by the way, Cliff. But I graduated from the University of Oregon. While I was still in college, I had a young family and had to support my family. And I went to work for a consulting firm that happened to work with physicians and dentists. Okay. And I spent about the next 6 years working for two different consulting firms, learning my business, learning my craft. And it was 1988 that I decided that I had received enough background and enough education and enough experience that I could hang a shingle and start my own consulting firm. And so in 1988, I started my own consulting firm that specialized in working with dentists on the business side of their practice. And so we help dentists develop more profitable and enjoyable practices. And really what my mission is all about, Cliff, is I want to help more people have great oral health. You know, there's just so many benefits, health and appearance, wellness benefits to having great oral health, that I want to help as many people as possible have great oral health. And the way we do that is by helping dentists thrive, helping them develop profitable and enjoyable practices that allow them to help more patients have great oral health.
Excellent. So you decided to start your own business back in 1988, you said?
1988, I hung a shingle and started my own business. It was terrifying. Cliff, I know you can identify with that. I had a young family, had young children. We now have 4 kids, but we had 2 young ones at home. And my wife was a school teacher. She taught kindergarten. And it was absolutely terrifying, but it was something that I was destined to do. And in 1988, hung a shingle and started my own consulting firm.
When you offered those consulting sessions or the services, what kind of services were you offering? Was it all mainly on site back then, or did you do classes?
Actually, a combination. It was a combination of things, Cliff. Lecturing and providing courses was one avenue that I've been very involved in since the beginning of my career. Cliff, I've actually had the privilege of presenting over 11,000 hours of continuing education courses at seminars and association meetings, study club meetings, postgraduate settings in universities, and so on. So I've actually provided over 11,000 hours of live courses. So part of my business model was to provide live courses. Another part of my business model was to go out and do on-site coaching and training, where I would visit offices and spend time observing and get to understand their operation, and then provide recommendations in the form of coaching and consulting with those offices all over the country. I've had the privilege of working with offices from 48 states, 6 provinces in Canada, and it's been just an absolute joy. I count myself one of the fortunate few. Someone told me a long time ago that if you pick something to do that you love to do, you never have to work a day in your life. And although I've spent many 80 and 100-hour weeks, I don't feel like it's been work. I feel like it's been an absolute passion.
I know that feeling as well. People call me a workaholic, and I'm like, well, I guess you can call it work. So now I'm going to put my self out here, and of course, the cool thing about post-production is I could edit this out if I'm wrong. But Gary, are you the client that I worked with a long time ago that told me that you had instruction classes where you would bring people out to do continuing ed, but also race car driving and motorcycle cross country biking and stuff?
Your memory serves you well, Cliff.
Okay.
So if I can tell you that part of the story, it's rather interesting. Outside of my family and my work, my 2 hobbies are riding motorcycles and racing cars. And so in the year 2000, I started a division of our company called Ride and Learn. This is where we would take dentists on Harley-Davidson motorcycle tours, and we would combine a serious continuing education course with a Harley-Davidson motorcycle tour. And my dealer, I have a Harley dealer here in Scottsdale, Hacienda Harley-Davidson, and they ship 20 motorcycles wherever we go. They ship them in a tractor-trailer rig. And the doctors just show up then, and we organize a 4-day ride where each evening we provide continuing education courses in the lodge where we end up that night. And over the last 12 years now, we've actually done 36 of these trips all over the country, and we've developed a wonderful community of doctors that come out on these trips each year, and it's developed kind of a life of its own. We have a community of people that have become fast friends because of Ride and Learn. Then it was about 2 years later that a friend of mine that's very involved in high-performance driving said, Gary, not all dentists ride motorcycles, but most are interested in driving or high-performance driving. You ought to do a division of what you do called Race and Learn. So we did just that. We go to racetracks around the country, and we provide a serious dental continuing education course combined with a high-performance driving course, and we call it Race and Learn. And I've got to tell you, Cliff, the reason why we did those is I wanted to take dentists and their team members outside of the stuffy meeting room. Most of our dental meetings are in, down at the Holiday Inn with folding chairs, and it just is too standard and too expected. And I wanted to take dentists outside of the stuffy meeting room, and I wanted to provide an educational experience that allowed the experience to just come alive. And that's what Ride and Learn and Race and Learn is all about.
Well, I love this, and the reason why I love this is because it is a unique way of thinking about what we can offer. Many of us who are podcasters, a lot of us have consulting services that we do and coaching and things like that. And I've even been thinking about doing some weekend seminar kind of events. And sure, I could come set up in a Holiday Inn as well, or some kind of conference center at a hotel, or I could do something unique. And I want to go back to Dan Miller's No More Mondays cruise that happened in February of 2011. I can't believe it was that soon, that it was just over a year ago, because it seems like it was longer than that. But this was a cruise, a Caribbean cruise for 7 days. And it was the conference that Dan Miller had on there was, there are 3 or 4 days of all day conferences, when we were at sea and stuff like that. And there is something unique about getting away from it all, getting into a different atmosphere that completely unplugs you, unlocks hidden creativity, and just an overall sense of well-being that comes from getting away and doing something exciting. And for me, it made it so much easier to learn because I was so much more relaxed and engaged with the people because of these relationships from going on some of these, these, what do you call those, excursions and stuff like that together. It's just a blast. I love that idea.
Well, that's exactly what it is. And if I may relay a story from one of our trips, we've had the privilege of bringing some of the most notable speakers in dentistry. Many are also motorcycle riders and enjoy racing cars. And one of those is Dr. Gordon Christensen. And that's a name that might not mean much to you, Cliff, but to my audience, he's a Dan Miller type personality in our industry, or a Leo Laporte. How about that? He's a Leo Laporte type personality in our industry. Just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful gentleman. And anyway, Dr. Christensen, here we were at Yellowstone National Park. And Cliff, have you ever had the privilege of going out and visiting Yellowstone National Park?
Not yet.
Well, put it on your to-do list.
It is.
You've got to take the kids out, take Stephanie out, and enjoy Yellowstone National Park because it is absolutely spectacular. I mean, you feel like your head needs to be on a swivel, just to take in all that grandeur and all that scenery. And here we are at Yellowstone National Park with Dr. Gordon Christensen, who, by the way, Dr. Christensen, if he is speaking at a major industry conference, he'll typically have a couple thousand dentists in the room. And so that's normally the kind of audience that he might draw, at a major industry conference. But here we are with a group of about 40 of us, and in a small group setting, able to enjoy this grandeur of the scenery all around us, and able to break bread with Dr. Christensen, for 4 days. And what a wonderful experience! And I just think it becomes one of those experiences to our guests that they'll remember the rest of their life.
And how many people were there in Yellowstone?
We typically have 20 bikes, 20 motorcycles. That's the capacity of the tractor trailer rig. So we'll have 20 motorcycles, and almost every doctor will bring a spouse or passenger. So a typical group size. We also bring a sag wagon, or it's actually my pickup truck that pulls a 12-foot enclosed trailer so they can bring all their luggage with them. They don't have to pack like they're trying to fit it into a saddlebag. And so we carry the support truck with the trailer that carries all the luggage. So we'll typically have a group of about 40, 42 people, something like that. And it's a small group type environment to experience great educators and great scenery. And plus, it's just a whole lot of fun. Cliff, and you're such a wonderful example of that I know your work is your passion. And I have to pinch myself sometime on these trips to realize that I'm actually working.
Yeah. Well, and this is, and I promise my audience out there that we'll get into the podcasting side of your story in just a moment. But to be honest with you, I'm kind of digging this line of where our conversation has gone at this moment. And if you don't mind, I feel free to share what you will or won't. But I would love to know just how much is your cost in putting something like that together, and how much do you charge a participant in a scenario like that?
We've actually, over the years, we've evolved our business model in that, and I have found that participating in these courses have provided so many residual benefits that we simply host these courses. We call them a club event. We call it the Ride and Learn Club or the Race and Learn Club, and we simply have all of our guests pay their direct expenses. So we actually provide that as a nonprofit, if you will, activity because I'm able to get so many residual benefits from putting on these courses and hosting these courses that I don't need the course itself to be a profit center, if you will. Did I explain that in a way that makes sense, Cliff?
Yeah, you had me until about the last sentence, where you don't need to have a profit. But no, I totally get that line of thinking. So you're saying that honestly, for you, you're paying for your expenses to go on this, and they're paying for their expenses. This isn't something that you come away and profit from directly from these 40 people. So you're not charging, you're not paying a certain X amount of dollars, and in return with what they pay, you're getting X amount plus a profitable cushion there for yourself.
Right, and that's evolved over the years. Initially, when we started it as a for-profit division of our company, and we charged tuition, and we were able to make a profit from it. And we found, though, that as time went on, that there were so many benefits, residual benefits. For example, I would be invited to speak from people that had come on these courses. The kind of doctors that come on these courses tend to be very involved in the dental community. They tend to be the leaders in the community. And because of that, I would get so many opportunities to speak, or the ability to pick up clients, or the ability to sell product. We have educational product as well, that there were just so many benefits that we decided to simply host those as a community building event. And it's worked out fantastic for us.
So I'm a dentist, and I want to go on a ride and learn. I pay for my own motorcycle rental, if you will, kind of directly to the organization there that's doing that. And now, do I pay for your course while I'm there, or is that just something you tack on?
Nope. That's just something that we provide as a courtesy to those attending. And we're able to get some really fantastic speakers. Literally, it's a who's who in our industry that have come on these trips.
And they're not paid.
They're not paid. They're unpaid. This is provided as, in fact, they actually pay their own expenses. And it's one of the ways that they get to go out and do something really fun in our industry and carry their passion for education forward. And however, I will emphasize, though, that the residual benefits allow me to continue to do those courses because certainly, as your own business is, it is a for-profit enterprise.
Yes, it is.
We do have to figure out how to get reimbursed, for our time and activity. But I found that it actually came back to me in so many different ways that we decided, it was a number of years ago, that we switched the format into a what we call a club or a hosted event. Where we simply host it and simply allow guests to come on those courses at the direct cost of their attendance.
That's so interesting. Gary, I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind. Do you mind if I take us down a total side tangent and then come to your podcasting story?
Oh, you bet. I'm having fun, Cliff.
All right, because you're blowing my mind here with this idea. Because I'm going to share something that's behind the scenes. My wife would probably kill me for sharing this because she told me that we probably shouldn't share all these details. But here's the deal. We have a community cruise that's happening in the summer of 2013. And this is something that we've been wanting to do for a long time. We've got probably about 80 or so people who are committed to coming on this thing. And that's a significant number of people. And, with the Dan Miller No More Mondays cruise, it was in February, and it was on an amazing ship, the Celebrity Solstice. And one of the things that I know is that by getting people to come on to the cruise, I made a commission. So I actually had some people that came onto the cruise, and as a result, I had some extra spending money on this cruise. And I know that, for somebody like Dan to put on this cruise, not only, he gets enough people, there's a good chance that the cruise isn't going to cost him any money at all. And that's pretty typical from what I've been told from people who put on, these kind of cruise events. Have you heard of anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, the cruise and learn in our industry has been something that has been fairly common going back, a number of years. Right. And that is typically the format that's done. Well, typically the organizer or the host receives some financial remuneration or benefit from putting on the event.
So here I am. I have a pretty significant community with GSPN.TV and also Podcast Answer Man, which, as far in my mind, they're the same. Although I don't think that I mentioned GSPN enough in Podcast Answer Man productions and stuff. But anyway, here's the thing. I have a sizable community, and one of the things that we got into is we determined that the best time for us to go was it just happened to be the most popular week for cruising in the world. It happens to be when everybody's out of school, and it's the most expensive time to cruise. And when it came down to it, there's really only like 3 or 4 choices for us to choose the week that we wanted to go. Right. And one of them was a really, really run-down old ship that, to be honest with you, I saw a video on YouTube, and I'm thinking to myself, that looks like 2 air mattresses sitting on the floor of that cabin. I would not want my community sleeping in a cabin like that. And so we determined that wasn't right. And when it came down to it, we got all excited about going on this Disney Dream cruise. It's a Disney cruise. Well, we decide we're going to start planning things down this route. It's one of the more expensive options out there. But the thing is we get an amazing cruise. Everybody knows that Disney gives you the Disney experience and all of this stuff. And of course, that's really what I wanted for my community. I really want them to come away and say, wow, I know that every penny I spent on that cruise was well worth it. From the mattress on my bed all the way up to the TV entertainment system, to the meals, to the time, everything was just amazing. That's what I want them to walk away with. Turns out that after we get into the planning process, is like, oh, just one thing though. There's no benefits to having a large group. there's no free berths. There's no free this. There's no kickback here. And then all of a sudden, I found myself in this position where, like, wow, that really stinks. Because honestly, I was in a position, if I go for the cheaper ship, and of course, the cost to those who would sign up is even a lot less expensive. There's no question in my mind, with just 50 people, my entire family of 5 would cruise for free. But with the Disney Cruise Line, it's, when I consider air travel and the entire cruise for my family of 5, I'm looking at somewhere between $5,000 to $7,000 out of pocket. And if I market this thing correctly, I could have over 100 people on this cruise. And I get no financial benefit from doing that at all. And so Gary, given what, because I'm all about the residual benefits, I give away a ton of stuff for free and stuff like that. But can you find a way? Can you communicate to me that, Cliff, go for the Disney Dream? Don't look to profit. Don't look to charge anybody for the conference. Go ahead and reserve some rooms on the conference. Don't charge anybody for it, but tell them that you're going to put on a podcasting, how to build an online community around your podcast conference. And don't charge anybody. Just let them pay. You don't profit. Yes, it's going to even cost you directly to pay for it. Tell me why I should do that, given what you've said. Just try to convince me.
I can do that without hesitation, and here's why. You taught me this.
I know I did. This is one of those things where I do as I say, not as I do.
But Cliff, and what I mean by that for our listeners is, Cliff, you're such a wonderful example of giving and providing content to your community. And think about what the experience will be for your guests, because as wonderful as the new media and opportunity to share information is, there still is nothing like being able to meet face to face.
Yes.
And your cruise is going to give your community an opportunity to meet face to face and spend quality time with you, spend quality time with your family. And I would politely suggest that you'll be paid back many, 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 many times over by arranging this and by thinking enough about your community to do it in a first-class way.
Yeah.
And it's similar in our, when we do our ride and learn courses and race and learn courses, there's no roughing it here. We stay at the highest quality properties that we can possibly stay at. We have our meals at the best restaurants. We absolutely, everything's done in a first-class manner, because that's how I want to represent my company and my work. And there's no penny pinching or scrimping, in that. And there's probably a certain percentage of the dental universe that isn't interested in that because of that. But more people are interested in treating themselves to a special experience.
Yeah.
And so how I would answer your question is to do what you've taught so many other people to do, which is to give back freely and generously, and it will come back to you in spades. And our work is such an example of that, and I can point to so many different examples of how that work, and the work that we do in Ride and Learn, the work we do in Race and Learn, has been able to be. I've been able to monetize it in other ways. Yeah. And you've got so many different opportunities that you're doing that are exciting, that represent ways to monetize your work, that this particular cruise may be an opportunity for you not to pursue it with a monetary benefit because of the residual benefits, if you will, that will come from that.
Yeah, you've been talking to my wife. This is great stuff, and this is why I'm so thankful that this got into this interview, because this is the way, this same thing happened when it came to my Learn How to Podcast 101 video tutorial series. You've gone through A to Z, so the time, energy, and effort I put into my digital products.
Well, that was the example I was going to use, Cliff, because I remember, and I listen to Podcast Answer Man, faithfully. It's my morning workout accompaniment while I'm working out at the gym. I'm an early morning guy. I'm at the gym at 4:45, and I have you on the headset as I'm working out in the gym. And I remember when you announced your podcasting, A to Z. Originally, it was a webinar and a training opportunity. Is that correct? When you initially announced it, and there was tuition involved initially. But I remember that before you launched it, you made an announcement, and you said you've decided to offer this at no charge.
I think you're talking about the Podcasting 101.
Podcasting 101, yeah, correct. I'm sorry.
Different than A to Z. A to Z is still charged. I just want to make sure that one's clear. But no, Podcasting 101, absolutely.
101, correct.
It's going to be.
But I remember when you originally announced Podcasting 101, there was going to be a modest tuition involved for the training, for the webinar.
Yep.
And then you changed it, and you changed it because you felt like you wanted to be able to reach more people.
Yes.
And you wanted to remove the barrier for it, and to make it more accessible and more available. And that was, by the way, that was one of Mitch Joel's message in 6 Pixels of Separation, which was to provide content and provide much of it at no cost. And that's something that I've evolved my own business to over the last 18 months, is providing content that is either no cost or very low cost to be able to help more people in the community. And I think you're a wonderful example of that. And I think your cruise might be a way to incorporate that line of thinking for that type of event.
Well, it certainly has solidified it in my mind, and that was the direction that I was leaning. Sometimes you just need some other people to come along and say, you know what, I've done this, and yeah, it costs money to put something like this together and stuff like that. But trust me, it's not a cost; it's an investment. And sometimes you just need to be reminded of how much of an investment things can be. So let's get back to your podcasting story, because so you went through A to Z, but one of the things that I find interesting is that you have a podcast. It is a great podcast. You've got 12 episodes online already, but you're not producing it yourself. How did this come about?
Well,
how.
This is where the story takes a little bit of a turn, a little bit of a twist, and I think the story may be of interest to your listeners, Cliff. So I took your Podcasting A to Z course, and absolutely knew how, and I want to emphasize that at the end of that course, my daughter, who's a sophomore in college at University of Arizona, Lexi, and I had all the information we needed to start producing our own podcast, and I set a deadline. I'm very goal oriented, as I know you are, Cliff, and I set some goals and I set a deadline. And the challenge that I had was that I was introducing new content to my community, a written blog, an audio podcast, and yet still doing my full-time day job, still running my consultancy. Which at times it's literally an 80-hour-a-week job, and I'm not exaggerating, Cliff. There are times where that's an 80-hour-a-week job. I speak almost every Friday, somewhere around the country. I'm lecturing at an industry conference almost every Friday. I have clients all over the country. Have a team that I work with of coaches, and so I'm putting in my 60 to 80 hours a week, running my business, which is my business model, my profit model, and at the same time trying to produce this new content. And I found that I kept pushing back my deadline. my deadline to launch the podcast. At first, it was November 1st. And then I said, well, no, then November 15th. Then I said December 1st. And it was bothering me that these deadlines were passing and I hadn't yet published my first episode. And so I decided that I would go a different route. And that's where I worked with Andy Traub, who I originally met through the Unofficial Linchpin podcast. And I loved his approach on your Business Tech Weekly podcast. And I actually hired Andy to be my host, to be my podcast show host. And by doing that, I was able to take it from someday I'm going to launch a podcast to doing one now. And the main reason why I did that was to launch my podcast and to begin to get the benefits of having a hot podcast sooner. I simply didn't want to wait any longer.
Absolutely. So basically, Andy records everything on his end. He schedules that time with you and potentially a guest that you'll bring onto the show. And Andy's got all the recording equipment set up. He's got everything all figured out as far as audio levels and audio clips and putting all the music in the front and in the end of the show. You don't have to worry about any of that. Andy's voice is even the first voice you hear as the host of the show.
It is.
He comes in and then he introduces you that this is your podcast. The two of you have a little bit of time to talk with one another, and then oftentimes you'll have a guest on the show, right?
That's right.
And then
I was able to really focus on what I think is the best way to leverage my skill and ability, which is to organize the content of the shows and to line up my guests. One of the things that I've been able to develop over the last 30 years in this profession is a wonderful relationship capital, if you will. Cliff, these are people that are leaders in our industry that I've developed fast friendships, over the last 30 years, and I have a wonderful group of authorities that are very good friends, and I simply call them up and invite them to be on the Thriving Dentist Show, and then we do an interview that involves Andy and myself as Andy as the host, myself as what would you call me, Cliff? I guess I'm the creator of the podcast.
Yeah, I would say that, I would actually consider Andy to be your producer.
There we go.
And I would say that actually Andy would be a producer and I guess you guys would be in a co-hosting role. So both of you would seem to be the hosts of the show or co-hosts of the show. It's like, he's you're Kelly Ripa and he's Regis Philbin.
There we go. Can we switch that? Can I be Regis?
There you go. So Andy is your Kelly Ripa.
There we go.
All right, there we go.
Well, there's been other benefits too, Cliff. The main reason why I chose to go with a producer, using the terminology that you just suggested, I think that's a good way to describe it, was that it would simply allow me to launch the podcast sooner. And Cliff, I kept hearing from you that there are so many benefits to podcasting. And I believe those in my heart, especially after studying and listening to people like Mitch Joel and others, and knowing that there were just so many benefits to this that I just wanted to get the content out there sooner. I wanted to get out, and I do want to emphasize to our listeners that I have all of the knowledge to produce my own podcast. Thanks to you, Cliff. I have all that knowledge. I know what to do. I know that it's important to have it hosted on Libsyn and to have it on iTunes, and I know all of that. Know how to do that through the wonderful tutorials that you provided. However, I didn't have the time to do that and run my 60 to 80 hour a week job and add that to the workload, because it was going to be me that did that. And so at some point I had to decide how's the best way to leverage myself. And I felt like the best way to do that was to work with Andy to be the producer. And literally it was a week after I contacted him that we recorded the very first podcast.
So where do people find your show? I know it's the Thriving Dentist, and I can see that it forwards to the Takacs learningcenter.com. But do you have a vanity URL for the podcast?
We do own it. We thanks to your suggestion, we do own Thriving Dentist Show URL. However, right now we host that on my website, which is Takacs Learning Center. I should spell Takacs. It's a little different spelling. Takacs, TakacsLearningCenter.com. And it is on iTunes. It is available for subscription on iTunes, again, thanks to your guidance and your suggestion. And that's how most of our listeners find it, is on iTunes. Although they do also find it through promotion and direction to my website. But it's just been, it has so far exceeded my expectations in terms of just how wonderful the world of podcasting is. And by the way, Cliff, I deliberately chose audio, and I know you've debated and discussed with others, including with Leo Laporte, the different formats that are available. And I deliberately chose audio for precisely the reasons that you talk about, and that is that it's accessible. It's so accessible. You know, imagine my podcast is all about how to help dentists develop profitable and enjoyable practices, how they can develop a thriving practice in any economy. So my listeners are dentists and their team members. I like to call them team members as opposed to staff. So it's the doctors and their team members. And they're driving to work in the morning. They can listen to the podcast. They can download it to the listening device, listen to it as they're driving to work. They can listen to it while they're working out. They can listen to it when they're flying to a conference. And it's so convenient. You know, it's difficult. One of the other areas of my background that you know, Cliff, but I'll share with our listeners, is that although I'm not a dentist, I do own a dental practice here in Phoenix, Arizona. I do own a dental practice, and it serves as our learning and teaching laboratory. It's a working it's a thriving dental practice right here in Phoenix, Arizona. And I know how difficult it is to get my team together. We're a team of a doctor and 6 team members, so including myself, there's 8 of us. I know how difficult it can be to get 8 of us to sit down and watch a video, for example. However, in an audio format, if I listen to something that I'm really excited about, I can listen to it, I can digest it. I can then share it with one of my team members that can listen to it as she's driving to work the next day. And it's just such a wonderful format. And I'll tell you, anybody, you know, and I know you jokingly will talk about how Leo Laporte has said that that podcasting is dead, and it's live and well. At least in my world, it is.
And this is somebody talking who, number one, had no idea what a podcast was 1 year ago, and has only recently released 12 episodes, and you already feel this way.
Oh, Cliff, I like I said, it's so exceeded my expectations. As you know, because we have the show hosted on Libsyn, we're able to obtain metrics and data from it. And I took a look at some of the data before our call today, and I was just so humbled to learn that the show has been downloaded to dentists in 45 countries.
That is amazing.
45 countries. And it's just so amazing to me that it's received that kind of volume. And the sheer download, the download volume has astounded me in terms of what's, what the byproduct of the show has been. My whole reason for producing the show is that I want to help more dentists. It's a challenging profession. It's a challenging. They have to manage the clinical side. They have to manage the business side, and it's so challenging. And I wanted to provide content that would be able to allow me to help more dentists. And the show has eclipsed that goal many, many times over, even just 12 shows into it. And it's just very exciting. The other thing is just on the personal side, Cliff, I get to talk to, as part of the podcast, I get to talk to some of the most interesting people in dentistry, as part of the podcast. And I would do it just for that, just to, for my own benefit of being able to talk to some of the most interesting people in our industry.
Absolutely. I have one other big question for you, and I hear this a lot as far as when it comes to people who have objections to creating and launching a podcast. When I'm at these conferences and stuff like that, and I say, yeah, well, I'm going to do a blog because, to be honest with you, nobody really understands what a podcast is. Nobody knows what this stuff is. So Gary, this is my question for you. I'm talking to somebody who 1 year ago had no clue what a podcast was. None. No clue.
Had no idea
clue whatsoever. And by the way, prior to you learning, the technology had been around for at least 5 years, if not just a little bit more than that. And so this technology has been around for 5 years. You had no clue what it was, and then you learn. Now you're creating a podcast and you want to reach dentists. Now, and here's what other people will say. And I would love to hear what you would say to somebody else who might want to create a podcast, but they would say, well, my target audience are dentists. And to be honest with you, dentists are pretty big into technology, but I just have a feeling that most of them have no idea what a podcast is. What would you say to those people?
Oh, what I would say is they will be pleasantly surprised by the way that the content will be distributed once they create it. The key is in creating valuable content that your audience wants to listen to. And if you'll make the commitment to do that, to create valuable information that is just undeniably valuable, that will provide immediate take-home information that they can use, then listeners will flock to it. And I think I'm a good example of that because, as you indicated, it was only a year ago that I discovered the wonderful world of podcasting myself, and from there went on to to produce my own. And it's been such a wonderful experience to realize that we're able to help people. And in my case, I didn't really think ahead of time the international ramifications of what I was doing. I was really thinking more along the lines of here in the U.S. However, when you think about it, in my industry for just a minute, English is the professional language of choice worldwide. I know this when I lecture. I've done quite a bit of lecturing internationally, Cliff. And when you're lecturing, one of the things that the conference providers will do is provide you with a simultaneous translator. So, for example, if I'm lecturing in Germany, they'll provide a translator who has headphones on, and they'll listen to what I'm saying, and simultaneously, this must be a very difficult job, by the way, but they'll simultaneously translate in German to any of the audience that wants to hear it in their native language. And just to give you an idea, when I'm lecturing, say, in Germany, as I've done in the past, only about 5%, maybe 7% of the audience is wearing headsets.
Huh.
Which would tell me that 95, 92, 93, 95% of the audience is fluent enough in English to be able to understand your content, in English. Yeah. And so it's just astounded me to realize, and humbled me, frankly, to realize that the podcast has been downloaded to dentists in 45 countries, and many of those countries are third world countries where they might be young dentists early in their career, where they're trying to establish some knowledge and some information to be able to help others. And I just feel very grateful that I'm able to reach an audience like that and to use podcasting as that format. And I count myself very blessed and very fortunate to be able to play that role.
And one of my favorite things, Gary, is that I would venture to say that maybe 30 to 60% of your audience that downloads your podcast, you're the very first audio podcast they ever listen to.
I'll take that information at face value, Cliff. I would believe that.
Yeah.
And it's just been like I said, it's been fantastic. I've received speaking engagements from listeners. In fact, just last week I received a speaking engagement from Jamaica. For the Jamaican Dental Association. I'll be speaking there next year. I received a speaking invitation for the UK next year that came as a result of someone listening to the podcast. Also received a speaking invitation to Thailand. I'll be speaking at a dental conference in Thailand next year as a result of someone having found me via the podcast. And so it's really allowing me to serve my mission, which is to help more dentists develop a practice that's as profitable, enjoyable as possible. And I couldn't imagine now that I have podcasting in my skill set and in my repertoire, I couldn't imagine doing business without it. It's just such a wonderful business tool. And I know I'm preaching to the choir with you, Cliff, because you know that so well, and you've inspired so many others. But certainly in my niche business, I couldn't imagine running my business without the podcast. It provides so many unique benefits and unique connections that simply couldn't happen another way.
Well, Gary, I really value your time and thank you for coming on to the podcast Answer Man and sharing with our community here just how podcasting has benefited you. Also for the valuable insights about those ride and learn, the drive and learn, and all the other, and now the cruise and learn, and all this other amazing stuff. Gary, it's been very valuable to have this conversation. I just want to say thank you for joining me.
Well, Cliff, it's my pleasure, and again, I want to take a minute and thank you. You've been such an inspiration to me, and thank you for your giving spirit and just your wonderful spirit of helping. It has been so helpful to me and so appreciated. As you know, there's been different times that I've had to reach out for a question, and you've been very prompt to reply and get me back on the path. And I just can't thank you enough for that.
It's my pleasure. Thanks a lot, Gary. Well, my friends, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of Podcast Answer Man. I hope that you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. I know I certainly am going to go away with full confidence in the direction that I knew I should have gone, and I should have listened to my wife. She knows best about the future of the GSPN community cruise and what we're going to do there. More information about that coming soon. Hey, you know what? With today's guest, normally I would go and tell you to check out his podcast, and you know what? Business principles, success principles are easily transferable from one business to the next. So I would encourage you to go check out thrivingdentistshow.com. But if dentistry just isn't your thing, there's a great way we can help spread the word of podcasting around the world. Next time you go see your dentist, why not tell them about thrivingdentistshow.com? And it's a great way to, like I said, they're always looking for something to talk with you about just randomly every now and then anyway. So bring it up. That'd be great. Anyway, real quick, I want to say thank you to those of you who have used my Bluehost affiliate links on my site. Today's HomeRemedies.com this week. Kyle Bida, I'm not sure how you pronounce the last name, Kyle, but it's KYLEBIEDA.com and mentalmoment.com. All three of those folks used my affiliate link just in the past 7 days. And folks, as you know, I get a generous commission when you sign up for hosting using my Bluehost affiliate link, and I really appreciate it. And also, I'm going to end this show by telling you that I am so excited about the fact that I am in just full swing on setting up the podcasting track for the Blog World and New Media Expo. I am talking to some pretty significant people in the early days of podcasting, and it looks like we're going to see a great turnout there. And not only that, but some great sessions and topics and titles that I'll be announcing very soon. In fact, one of the things that I'll be doing is I'm going to be creating a separate podcast just for the podcasting track of the Blog World and New Media Expo to keep people informed as people are signing up as speakers. As we nail sessions down onto the grid, we will be telling you what those are, so you'll know what to expect, what sessions you definitely want to attend when you come to Blog World. It's going to be amazing. And I hate to tease you. No, I don't. I don't mind teasing you, but I really wish I could tell you everything. I thought I knew a lot of exciting things coming up and changing with Blog World in the very near future. But yesterday I had another conversation, an hour-long call with Rick Calvert, and I learned even more. And my friends, you definitely want to come to Blog World NYC. Major announcements coming. And I'll tell you what, this podcast that I'm going to be creating, Rick's going to be on the first episode. We're going to be scheduling that, I think, probably for next week to be recorded. I'm going to try to drag out some of that information earlier than the NYC event. We'll see what I can do. God bless you all. We'll be back again next week. Talk to you then.